So you've read the title and seen the thumbnail, and yes, you have been clickbaited. Just a little clickbait because Darius Garland is a really good player and I don't think he gets talked about enough. But making the leap from good to great is a lot harder than people realize. But what if Darius Garland did become a superstar? What would it take for this undersized, fringe all-star point guard to become one of the NBA's premier players? And is Darius Garland closer to being an all-NBA caliber player than we realize? Let's take a look at the 2023-24 NBA season and try to figure out what is in store for Cleveland's most underrated star, Darius Garland. Before we get into the video, if you are new to the channel, please consider hitting subscribe and stick around as I will be dropping new video breakdowns and podcasts as we move into the NBA season. And follow me on Twitter to keep up with all of my work. After his breakout All-Star season 2 years ago, fans had hoped Darius Garland would continue blazing upward, but with the arrival of Donovan Mitchell, last NBA season was relatively smooth for Garland, all things considered. His stats held steady compared to his previous All-Star season, with improvements to his three-point efficiency. Some people found this a bit underwhelming as they were expecting another big leap, but we shouldn't take for granted how quickly Garland and Donovan Mitchell managed to coexist. While there's still room for them to build more chemistry, the two ball-dominant guards had almost no issue playing alongside each other, and this can be in part credited to Garland's unselfishness and ability to command an offense. Garland has an excellent feel for the game and micromanages things at a level that has drawn comparisons to high-profile names like Steve Nash and Chris Paul. But while Nash and CP3 had the driver's seat all to themselves in the backcourt, Garland has been sharing the wheel for his entire career. He shared the floor with Colin Sexton during his first 2 NBA seasons, and now he is lurking in the shadows of Donovan Mitchell. With Evan Mobley soaking up a portion of the spotlight, becoming Cleveland's most important building block, Garland is starting to seem overlooked in the grand scheme of things. But at just 23 years of age, Garland is an integral piece to a team that should be competing at the top of the East for years to come. And in some ways, Garland is still the X factor to Cleveland's ceiling as his impact on the offense is comparable and even measures higher than his All-NBA backcourt partner. Right now, most people would consider Darius Garland to be slightly above, below, or on the exact same level as names such as Jalen Brunson and Tyrese Halliburton. But is it possible he is actually closer to players like De'Aaron Fox, Kyrie Irving, or even Ja Morant? Can Garland elevate his game and jump ahead of those star caliber names? Comparing Garland's season at 23 years old to a few of the players I mentioned as well as other comparable prospects, he isn't too far behind the best players on this list. So let's dive deeper into what makes Garland such an exciting prospect and estimate how much better he can realistically get entering the new season. I've already drawn the Steve Nash comparison, and it's really the one that sticks out most when watching Garland probe for his teammates.
A minute first half at Little Caesars Arena. Garland deep to Mobley for a jam.
Garland is a master at using his dribble to manipulate the defense.
Grizzlies beat Cleveland by 1, 11th consecutive win in that long range. Will hammer it home. How about the pass by Garland though, right?
And he will zip these live action, one-handed passes, all while still being a threat to score the ball himself.
Gets stripped, the ball's knocked away. Jetty Osman has checked into the Cavaliers as Garland crosses over Jordan Clarkson, shovels to Mobley, and Mobley crutches it home.
Their roles. And that's exactly what Love has done as he dunks it there and gets fouled on a beautiful pass by Garland.
This yo-yo move causes the defense to pause just long enough for Garland to dart a pass to Mobley, and the fact that he does this all while still posing a threat to scoop in for the layup is what has his defender looking helpless. Garland's manipulation of the defense is what makes him one of the best lob passers in the NBA. Blending his floater and lob pass together, making it impossible for the defender to know what's coming next.
Down on Fridays. Wow, that
Now Garland back the other way. It's around the defense of Jackson, lobs it to Mobley. It's another stuff for the.
And this underhand lob off the dribble is just unfair.
now it's tossed it up 5 times as Mobley soars in and finishes off the Garland alley-oop.
After he's getting over that ankle injury.
Garland upstairs, and there's Allen again.
Because you definitely have to have, when you score, when you have turnovers tonight, you got to score. Yes.
And
He's not afraid to punch a pass through a narrow window. Garland zips this one-hand cross-court pass with his left hand straight into Lowry's shooting pocket as he's moving down the floor. And Garland loves this shovel pass as a method of delivery when flying around the court.
Boy,
Cavs
they
are
got good
everywhere.
hands.
They're omnipresent on the defensive end, marking it to Okoro, back to Garland, shovels to Mobley. How about that?
Garland had a career-high 18 assists in this game against the Thunder, and this push in transition, where he collapses the defense and then wraps a pass around the defender's back for a dime, is the perfect representation of Garland's court vision and creativity with the ball. Back to the Nash comparison, Garland is dribbling like a maniac through defenders on this play before somehow finding Allen for the lob. And did I mention 18 assists was his career high? Well, that only lasted about a month and a half because Garland had 19 assists in this game against the 76ers. He's preparing to kick this ball out to the perimeter when Lamar Stevens begins his backdoor cut, so Garland audibles this pass in midair and places the ball to perfection.
What do we call that? The before times? And
There's 9 players in the paint when Garland picks up his dribble, yet he somehow delivers this pass through everyone to Okoro for a layup. This creativity with the ball is just wild stuff.
Garland
Good look.
scoops it to Allen, who jams it home.
Garland averaged the 10th most assists per 100 possessions last season and ranked 6th the year before. I'm using per 100 possessions in this case to account for Cleveland's slow-paced offense, and I think it's again worth pointing out that Garland now shares the backcourt with Donovan Mitchell, who had the 6th highest usage rating in the NBA last season. I think it's fair to assume Garland's assist numbers would be bordering at 10 per game if he was playing in a more traditional space and pace offense as the undisputed primary ball handler, like his counterparts such as Halliburton, Young, and Morant have the luxury of doing so. But I don't want to dive too deep into hypotheticals when we have everything we need to see right in front of us.
LeVert, and LeVert on to Garland, alley-oop, Okoro thunders it home.
Cavaliers just having fun.
Garland is a top 1% ball handler with perhaps the deadliest hesitation move in the game. He stuns the defense with his herky-jerky moves, hitting the gas, then slamming the brakes before bursting back to the hoop, and there's that sneaky lob pass again. Garland hasn't made a full leap into being a volume scorer, but he's still pouring in a hyper-efficient 20 points a night. His 58 true shooting percentage was the 24th highest for players who attempted at least 1,000 field goals last season. And he is in elite company when it comes to three-point shooting, rivaling the best snipers in the NBA in almost every single category. Adding volume has always been the goal. He broke his career high in scoring twice last season, showcasing that volume scoring is something Garland is capable of. But with Mitchell scoring close to 30 points a night and Evan Mobley attempting to grow as an offensive threat, I don't know how much room there is for Garland to see a boost in his production. But he could certainly shoot more three-pointers considering how efficient he already is, and continuing to grow inside of the three-point line would help him make a leap. Garland drove to the hoop over 1,000 times last season, the 6th most in the NBA. When comparing Garland to 30 other players who drove to the rim at least 800 times, Garland ranked 15th in efficiency. This places him firmly in the middle of the pack, converting just over 50% of his attempts. Garland shot a career-high 61% in the paint last season, but he struggled from the mid-range, shooting just 40%, down from 47% the year before, which even that number feels low for the quality of shooter Garland is. This in-between game is really where most of his two-point attempts come from, with Garland usually opting for a floater or mid-range rather than getting all the way to the rim. I know the NBA has moved away from the mid-range, but this shot is widely available for Garland, and if he can make this area of the floor more of a home, Garland's scoring would definitely improve.
Darius Garland trying to work Hauser, and he buries it.
Individual and team defense. Well, he's just too talented to be this quiet the last game and a half. Garland again.
But you can also argue Garland would probably be better off taking an extra dribble and drawing some contact to get himself to the free throw line more often. This has been a weak point for Garland throughout his entire career, with Garland scooping around defenders instead of driving into their body to draw contact. Of almost 50 players to average 20 plus points per game and appear in at least 60 games last season, Garland attempted the 13th fewest free throws per game. These are easy opportunities to score that have been left off the board, but Garland has taken steps to being a better finisher and drawing more contact. He improved his free throw rate to a career best last season and converted some of the toughest finishes we have seen from him so far. Garland finished through 25 and 1s last year, which as far as I can tell was the best mark of his career, up from 19 the year before, but it's still an area where he can improve. Yet even at his current status, Garland is still incredibly effective when attacking the paint, because no one else in the NBA throws as many dimes as Darius Garland when driving to the hoop. He led the NBA in this category, tossing lobs and drop-off passes with ease. His strength as a passer will always be his calling card, but a scoring leap is what really holds Garland back from being in the superstar conversations. Aside from reworking the roster to make scoring a little easier for Garland, the only thing that will truly unlock his full potential is internal growth and proving he can generate high-quality shots with high volume as the go-to man. Because for all of the great qualities Garland brings on a nightly basis, we have seen him crumble or disappear throughout games when a defense begins to rough him up and hounds him away from the ball. Garland isn't a great athlete by NBA standards, and he doesn't have the size to consistently win battles against more physical defenders. We have seen Garland rise to the challenge on various occasions. But without lightning-quick foot speed, vertical athleticism, or enough height to shoot over defenders, Garland is often left with no resort other than long bombs and difficult step-back jumpers when the shot clock is winding down or the offense is grinded to a halt near the end of the game.
Garland works on Caldwell Pope, launches a three. Long rebound, tipped by Mobley, out of bounds. 7 seconds left. Garland again on Conley, long distance three. Loose, tip toward the basket a number of times, loose ball.
This is why we saw Garland defer to Mitchell during the playoffs and at times in the regular season, because Mitchell's otherworldly gift as a shot creator places him a tier above Garland in this department, and it's one aspect of the game that players such as Kyrie, Damian Lillard, John Morant, and even Jalen Brunson still have an advantage over Garland. Take a look at this play, for example, where Mitchell explodes on the catch, trucking through multiple defenders and bursting up to the rim for a finish before anyone on Boston has a chance to recover. This is high-end athleticism and strength on display, and I just can't imagine Garland will ever be able to make plays like this. That makes the path toward being an all-NBA player a more narrow one, because if we are being honest, these hero ball moments are what separates the good from the great in most people's eyes. It's just incredibly difficult for a skinny, undersized guard to generate shot attempts at the end of games without athleticism helping him out.
Mitchell to the basket.
Donovan
Donovan Mitchell Show.
I think off-ball movement could benefit Garland the same way it has helped other similar guards like Stephen Curry. But that's a high bar to clear, and while Garland rates as one of the most effective off-ball shooters in the NBA, the Cavaliers' offense really hasn't made this a consistent part of their game, and the vast majority of Garland's off-ball potential remains untapped. But nonetheless, the future is incredibly bright for Darius Garland. Even at his current level, he's a top-tier playmaker and an efficient 20-point-per-game scorer who threatens to go off on any given night. The consistency is there for Garland, but the volume is what he is missing. The season, in many ways, will tell us if Garland is capable of extending himself into the NBA's upper echelon, or if being a fringe all-star is as far as he will go. But for now, I think the Cavaliers still have a hidden gem on the roster who can be polished to become a lot brighter if things break in the right direction.